Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are looking at the must-watch episodes of Season 7. This is the season, of course, that gave us the Leviathan, so there's going to be a lot to talk about. But before we dive into that, let's our wonderful I've broken Melissa already. Let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Melissa.
Great, thanks. I'm not supposed to do that when I'm laughing. Hi, I'm Melissa. I've been a fan of the show since the pilot aired.
Okay, pick up with Danielle and we'll come back to Melissa.
Hi, I'm Danielle Turchiano, a former entertainment journalist. I covered Supernatural since about 2008 for approximately 8 different publications over my career. And I think a lot of people who are watching this probably know me from Twitter because I was a big live tweeter during those days.
Okay, back to you, Melissa.
Am I unfrozen yet?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so hi, I'm Melissa. I've been a fan of the show since the pilot aired, and that's really all we need to say. Also, Kitty is often guest starring with me, but right at the moment she's not interested in y'all.
Okay, Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Kensing. I have been a fan of the show since the first season, dabbled in a bit of fanfic, and otherwise write queer, historical, paranormal, and contemporary romance, some of which are, overlapping in terms of the kinds of themes and worlds that Sam and Dean play around in.
Okay, very good. Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I have been watching Supernatural since that very first episode aired until that last one aired, and I cried.
Sumiko.
Oh, hi. My name is Sumiko Saulson. My cat's name is Marla. Marla doesn't like it when I talk that much. Bad furniture. Anyway, I've been watching Supernatural since my dad introduced me in season 2. I had to go back and watch season 1 again, but I've been watching it ever since, and I love that show.
And Carole.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I started watching in season 3, started writing fan fiction in 2012. And I'm one of the co-hosts of the podcast, So Get This, The Lore of Supernatural Fanfic on Spotify.
And I'm Gail Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance, but all my modern worlds are ones where Sam and Dean could walk in and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months so I could start fresh with season 12, fell down the rabbit hole, and I'm just slightly obsessed ever since. Slightly. Anyhow, season 7. Now, Sam's got his soul back, but there are problems. And all kinds of stuff is going crazy. So let's go around. Everybody give us one of your favorite episodes, and we'll just keep going around till we run out of time or episodes. Melissa?
Thank you. Time after time, Dean meets Elliot Ness, and I can watch this episode and have actually watched this episode with the sound off because Dean, 1940s clothes, come on. But it's also really cool because we get Dean with Elliot Ness and that whole plot line, and we get Sam working with Jody, and that was just a really cool thing because we don't usually see the boys separated when they're working with Jody, and it was a cool episode. But Dean, 1940s clothes.
And that lady took care of dressing him. She was hysterical.
She was great.
Well, yeah, she was all of the cougars in the audience. we all were relating with her very much. And
we all thank her.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Especially for that shoulder harness. Danielle?
I love the moment in that when Jody and Sam are working across the table, and she looks at him and she says, well, you and Dean, that's something special, right? And it's just, oh.
Yeah. My heart.
Yeah.
Danielle?
So I have been accused many times online of being a Dean girl, and I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying I like both brothers. So I think I probably should not start with a Dean episode, even though I want to follow in Melissa's lead here. I'm actually going to pick Death's Door, which may be a hard one to say must watch in the sense of rewatch because it's so emotional. It's the one where Bobby dies, and look, spoiler alert, it's supernatural, right? So like he's not actually dead. But I will say after the beginning of the season where his house burned down and the boys were like, did he make it? And then he did, to then just a few episodes later kill him off for quote real a chunk of time was such a big emotional moment that it's one of my favorite episodes from the season, if not my favorite episode. I think it might be my favorite. I'm torn here on a couple. And I think part of what I love about it too is like, it's not just they go on a hunt of the week and then he dies. It's they're spending time traveling through his memories in the episode. So you're getting to like understand why this is going to hurt so much and why it should hurt so much. And one of the things I feel like the show does the best is those emotional moments. I'm a person who, if it's of the week, if it has nothing to do with like moving the relationship or moving the lore, I'm not into it. Like it's, to me, it was part of you had 22 episodes and you had to fill them and you ran out of ideas and came up with something fun, which has a place, but it's not really I want something that moves things a little bit more. And this one, I think really, really did that.
And we got Rufus.
Of course.
And that one also has a really great Bobby quote. I adopted 2 boys and they grew up great. They grew up heroes. And that one is just
yeah. Because I mean, I was one of the fans that was like, I want to root for them to be a trio. You know, it's always been the boys, but like, I love it when Bobby's around. Like, he's so much better as a dad than John ever was. That's a whole other podcast or video. And so, yeah, this one just has meant a lot to me through the years.
And a huge credit to Jim Beaver in his portrayal all along of Bobby, so that this affects us so much. And then his performance in that episode, as he's going through all these memories and we're seeing all these, little clips of things that we kind of surmised, but we didn't really know. And now we get to see them and his reactions to them. And it's just an amazing performance, just really, really a great performance. And we couldn't be brought to those tears at the end had he not brought us to that point. So
yeah.
Kudos to Beaver.
Yeah. Anna?
Okay, I love season 7. I love the Leviathans. There's some stuff about this season that doesn't really work for me, but I think my favorite episode is Shut Up, Dr. Phil, because there's just so much that's great in here. So it starts with a gruesome supernatural death, and I love the gruesome deaths, the body horror ones, the like really, really like ooh death ones. So it starts with a gruesome death with the poor woman in the salon, and she's cooked to death underneath the hairdryer. And then there's another gruesome death of the poor bastard in the porta-john. And then there are just awesome special guest stars. Charisma Carpenter and James Marsters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who play the Starks, Maggie and Dawn Stark, witches, who have been alive for 900 years and are dealing with basically a War of the Roses level divorce situation that's going on. So we get awesome special guest stars. We get fun, snarky banter with everybody in this episode. We get sweaty Sam after his run. Dean still feels guilty about killing Amy Pond, Sam's like childhood friend, and he's got nightmares and he's doing some day drinking. And there's just this like amazing walk-in closet in the Starks house that belongs to Maggie Stark. And then we have Dawn Stark's assistant, Jenny, who bakes cupcakes for her boss. And then there are hearts in her cupcakes, and hearts in her cupcakes, hearts in her cupcakes. And she just loses her shit over the hearts in her cupcakes. And it really is just fantastic.
I love that Maggie is still mad at him about something that happened with the Medicis.
Right? Right.
Mm-hmm. I don't see anything wrong with that, but sure.
I mean, really, like the two of them are mad at each other. And he's not very happy with her either, because she she banged Christopher Columbus, right? Before he left to discover the New World. I mean, the man was going to sail off the ends of the earth. She should have at least give him a happy on the way, right? And then we have the Leviathans carrying the, sort of series arc through at the end, because there's a Leviathan that's after them, and Don Stark helpfully incapacitates him when he comes to their hotel room after, marriage counseling session, to find the coins that Maggie put under their mattresses that was gonna, kill them, and rescues them from the Leviathans. Or from the Leviathan that's after them. And it's just like start to finish. It's just classic Supernatural. It's hilarious. It is a monster of the week, but it also pushes the series season arc forward a little bit, and it's just top notch.
Awesome. Elektra?
The girl with the Dungeons and Dragons tattoo. We get Felicia Day playing Charlie Bradbury, who is just, Felicia Day is awesome no matter what she does. But Charlie is just a great character, and we see her in later seasons as well, being kind of, the little sister the boys never had. They've gotten the SOS from Frank about the drive's been cracked. You guys may be in trouble, and it leads them to the headquarters of Dick Roman's empire. And there they are checking things out, and it leads to Charlie. And she can decode the drive because she can decode anything, because she has that spark that people who have been turned into Leviathans just don't have. And meanwhile, they've figured out that Bobby is in the flask or haunting the flask, and he's getting more and more angry, and they're getting more and more worried about it. And they push Charlie to do it because they'll be recognized, and they're so worried about having her do stuff. And it's great. And in between having Charlie do stuff and hack the drive and delete stuff about them and everything else, they realize that Dick has found a tablet, and they go off and grab it and leave him a nasty surprise instead. And it's just so much fun.
Well, one of the best parts in that one is Dean coaching Charlie, who's gay, how to seduce a male security guard.
Because no one can do that.
Pretend he has boobs.
Worse.
Right? Well, first he has to realize that, he's not my type. Well, pretend he's your type, but he's the wrong type. And they have this going back and forth till Dean finally gets it.
Yeah, that watching him talk through that scene
it's so good. It's so good. He starts off, he's like, well, do you have any tattoos? I mean, all tattoos are sexy. And she's like, yes, it's Princess Leia straddling a 20-sided die. What? I was drunk. It was Comic-Con. And he's like, I get it. Say no more.
That line explains everything. Really. Yeah.
And she says, I feel dirty. And he says, you and me both, sister.
How about you, Sumiko?
I think for me, it was the second episode of that season, Hello, Cruel World, which starts with the one where Castiel's jacket is floating on the water and they have whole black water playing. I think that some people might be a Sam or a Dean person, but for me, as soon as Cass showed up, I was very distracted by Castiel. And that really actually hit me very emotionally. And I think that it set the tone for what actually was a pretty emotionally compelling season.
Okay. Carole.
There are actually a number of really tasty ones, but I'm going to start with the Born Again Identity, where they have Sam can't sleep and he's going mad because of his lack of sleep, and he's in a mental hospital. We have Meg becoming a reluctant ally. Sam's in this mental hospital. He can't sleep because Lucifer's screaming at him all the time. And yet he takes on a case and he helps a girl. He helps a fellow patient there. And, you know, despite his own tribulations, he's able to help her and help her brother's ghost move on and everything. And man, if that isn't Sam in a nutshell, you know, it's just wonderful. And then in the end, we have the great moment where Castiel actually owning up to having messed something up, takes Sam's
Trauma.
his madness, his
The hell
affliction,
memories.
yeah, onto himself so that Sam can return to normal life. And it means Castiel kind of goes off for a while, but the Winchesters are both back on the game, you know, back on the board. And, you know, Sam gets some respite and reunites with Dean and everything. And it's just, there's a lot going on. And it's just a really nice, powerful little episode that then helps move the arc along, because Sam is now not playing with a deficit. He's Sam again. We get all of the attributes of Sam back, which is huge. So yeah, I really like that one. And I think, again, a great performance by Jared, because the desperation that Sam has come to is so palpable, and yet he's able to reach out beyond himself and help someone.
And we get a little bit of Meg Steele, because Meg shows up for her Clarence, her unicorn. And so that was really cute too. Well, I'm going to go with Plucky Penny Whistle's Magical Menagerie. I have a weakness for Monsters of the Week. Sorry, Danielle.
No, I'm just surprised that of all of them, that's the first one you were mentioning. It's not a bad episode by any means, but.
Well, I have 3 kids who are now adults, so I logged so many Chuck E. Cheese hours in my day. And I totally get it. But this is a Chuck E. Cheese ripoff that it's got clowns, and Sam hates clowns. We get a little more insight into Sam hating clowns. And these kids' parents are getting killed in really bizarre ways, like an octopus on dry land, a mega octopus on dry land, suckered to death. Of course, there's the poor unfortunate ball washer. The who? The ball washer.
That scene is just 30 seconds of brilliance.
Yeah. And you know, chasing the guy in the mascot suit who thinks he's going to get hauled away by the FBI for smoking weed. And,
also cooking meth.
And anybody was cooking meth or whatever he was on, to say this is the best job I've ever had, I don't want to get fired. For those of us who logged a lot of hours, we've seen all those people, we've met all of them. And of course, it turns out that somebody is working these dark magic rites in the sub-basement, because he doesn't think that the kids' parents pay them enough attention. And so his solution is to just kill the parents by focusing on the kids' worst fears and having the fears become real. And of course, Dean figures out what his worst fear is. It's a tragedy with his younger brother, and the guy drowns in the sub-basement. But we get Sam covered with glitter like some PCP crazed stripper. We get Sam giving Dean the big slinky, which is just so poignant, because here's Dean Eppin Winchester, the guy monsters are afraid of. And when this little kid walks past him with the big slinky, all you can see in Dean's eyes is that he wants this slinky, and he starts playing skee ball and stealing tickets to get this slinky. And so Dean gives him the slinky. Sam gives him the slinky. Dean, not so great, gives Sam a clown toy, which gets ripped apart and left behind in the parking lot. But that's total Big Brother territory. There were just so many funny pieces in there, as well as some legitimately scary pieces. I will say that, honestly, Chuck E. Cheese's pizza did not taste like ass. It was actually pretty good. But so yeah, that's my first pick.
And you have that great moment where where Sam kind of goes, little spark of glitter comes out.
Yeah, that clown fight scene is just everything. And telling me, no, you used to ditch me here so you could go off and have a date. Which Dean did finally apologize for, but yes.
And the actual realization of watching a unicorn farting rainbows.
After it impales the kid's father.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's what it does.
Melissa, back to you.
Adventures in Babysitting, and spoilers for the series finale ahead. So if you haven't watched the series finale and you're watching this, just mute me. Sam asks Dean if they should be telling people about Bobby's death. Dean says, I'm not calling anybody. If you want to, you go right ahead. Sam says, I don't want to call anybody. Are you kidding me? And the series finale ties back to that so perfectly, because when Dean dies, Sam doesn't call anybody. We know this because Dean's cell phone is ringing off the hook. Like, it's just such that perfect parallel. And so this episode wouldn't have been one of my favorites, but because of what they did in the finale, it ties in so well that I just gotta go with it. Because one of Bobby's cell phone rings and Sam answers it, and he doesn't mention that Bobby is dead, but he offers to help. And it's like, rewatching it, I was crying all over again, because it's not only Bobby's death, but then we also have that tie-in to Dean's death and how Sam copes. So that's mine. And I didn't mean to bring us down after like all the glory of clowning and the clown shenanigans.
No problem. Danielle?
That's okay. I was gonna say, I don't really have shenanigans either. So I'm gonna pick another one that's more lore heavy. Reading is fundamental because I love Ben Edlund, and I need to talk about at least one episode that he did before we run out of space and time. But also I think somebody may disagree with me later, and that's obviously fine, but I think this episode, it was the third to last episode of the season. I personally feel like this episode did what most penultimate episodes do, where it like set up the big fight at the end better than, in this case, the actual penultimate episode. So in this one, it was the one where they break open the tablet from Dick, but they like, that's a huge deal, but also they learn there's another archangel. The tablet's being sought by these angels, but also it's being sought by Kevin Tran. And so we get the introduction to Prophet Kevin Tran, who we don't meet his mom yet. So part of why I love this episode is the dynamic that we don't know is coming, but I know in hindsight comes when we get to finally meet him with his mother. But I love the idea of this like regular kid being entrusted with this giant thing, because that's what Dean and Sam, when we met them in the pilot, that's what we thought they were all about. We only found out later that they were touched by God in a bigger way. And obviously Kevin is touched by God in a bigger way too, but he's just a regular kid now, and he's being thrust into this world. And I also just feel like I'm not a religious scholar by any means. We all know that Supernatural took liberties, even if you're not a religious scholar, I think you know that. But I think in this episode, in my recollection and in my opinion, it set up these new elements about what heaven is and who the players in heaven are that meant so much to this world in Supernatural, even if they don't mean anything in our real world. And that to me was a really interesting piece of lore and a really interesting setup for like, okay, I didn't personally love a lot of the season, but this gave me a little bit of like, ooh, I like what I think can come with the things that they're setting up with this piece at the end of the season.
And poor Kevin, all he wants to do is pass his AP exam.
But I also kind of love that, like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, you are destined for bigger things than stupid college. Like, this is a good message for many overachieving, overstressed children, maybe. They're not all going to be prophets, but like, that's not the end of the world. There are other things out there for you.
Okay. Anna.
Okay, so next I'm going to go with /fiction, where the Leviathans take on the boys' appearances and go on a crime spree in every town they have worked a job in order. And the Leviathan Chesters are freaking hilarious. They're complaining about the Winchesters in this diner. Leviathan Dean, is eating a burger because, he's pretending to be Dean Winchester. And so, of course, he's eating a burger. And he says, he has one of these every day. And in his heart, he thinks they're almost as good as sex. And Leviathan Sam pushes away his own plate and says, dead plants with creamy goo. It's like eating self-righteousness. And then they shoot up the diner a la Pulp Fiction, and the whole thing is just really, really awesome. Poor Dean in this episode has to put baby on lockdown because they meet up with Frank Devereaux, who tells them that they have to burn their identities, no more rock star, Fed agents, no more baby. And he quotes Dirty Dancing, Dean does, about not putting baby in the corner. And Sam's like, and he's like, Swayze movie. Swayze always gets a pass. And then Dean sings along to I'm All Out of Love, which makes him really uncomfortable. And then at the end, Crowley approaches Dick Roman and offers to parlay and with muffins made out of baby uvulas. And Dick rejects him and calls him a bottom feeder, whatever. And both of them are just hilarious, and it's sort of cruel and mean and horrible of Dick to be so dismissive of Crowley because he's the king of hell after all, but it's also just delightful and wonderful. And we discover some more things about the Leviathans, but mostly it's the Leviathan Chesters that I just love so very, very much.
And
Okay.
Steve Hinton has a cameo in that episode as one of the people in the diner. that they
Yes.
screwed up.
Outsiders.
Cool.
Mhm.
And that's
It's
the episode
just
that
so
Bobby
cool.
that's the episode that Bobby and Jody kiss and spawned all kinds of fan fiction from that. So
Yep.
that's
I
nice.
like
I did not remember that. I'll be honest. I didn't realize it was that
Yes.
episode.
All righty then. I do love that one. Survival of the fittest. We done that one?
Nope.
Mm.
Nope. This is the end. This is the season finale where Dick and Crowley are just up to all sorts of no goodness, and the boys are trying to figure out exactly they've got a righteous bone, and they're working out ways on how to get close enough to Dick to kill him. And Kevin is stuck at Dick Roman's headquarters, and Bobby's running around the body of a possessed maid. All sorts of stuff is trying to happen all at once. And in the end, they use baby as a decoy and run her right through the Sucre Corp sign. And she's just hanging there. And Dean gets up to Dick Roman and runs that bone through him, and boom, they're gone. They're just plain gone. And despite the fact that we've spent 2 damn seasons talking about purgatory, nobody guesses that's where they ended up. No one, even though we know that's where the Leviathans are from.
Yep.
We're just
Sumiko-
that dumb.
I think that maybe it was also like, we don't want them to be there. We want them to just be in hell because they were awful and we hate them.
Yeah.
At least for me, I was like, because I still think hell is worse than purgatory. And so I would like them to be burning. And, also it's half for what they did and half for they weren't as bad as they could have been. And maybe I'm also a little disappointed.
Well, Kevin ends up in hell with Crowley, which is not good.
Yeah. Sumiko? You're muted.
Sorry about that. So I think we haven't talked about There Will Be Blood yet, right?
Nope.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with that. First of all, I also love Kevin Tran, which I think was discussed earlier. In a lot of ways, he kind of represents what Sam maybe would have been like if he hadn't been born into a family of hunters already, because Sam also wanted to go to college and do a whole bunch of other things that he couldn't because he was born into this situation. But with Kevin, we get to see this from the start, and of course, this is the one where we get to really see what his relationship with his mother is like, which is really actually both hilarious and at the same time really touching. And also, as a person of color, I love seeing POC representation with characters in Supernatural. So that's another reason why I like that. But I also think that this is the episode where things start to really go downhill with Bobby as a spirit in a major way, where they had to really, come to terms with how things might not necessarily go the way they wanted, just because that's their friend that they love. And then finally, vampires versus Leviathans. So vampires are kind of, a sexy monster in lots and lots and lots of modern paranormal stories, but the ones in Supernatural are just not that likable. So the showdown between the Alpha and the Leviathan, it's great because they actually the Leviathans are so entirely loathsome that you do start rooting for the vampires, even though vampires are not very nice in this series.
And we also got the Alpha Vamp on leave, I guess, from being the headmaster in the
Magicians.
Magicians.
Oh.
Yeah, love him. Carole?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to take a turn back into the comedic. I'm going to go with Party on Garth. I love Garth. I think he's such a sweetheart. He's doing his best, and he's out there, 100%. I mean, he had one beer and he was lit. So, come on, Dean. I had a whole beer. So I love the whole alcohol demon thing, and the boys have to get drunk to see the demon.
And Dean,
top level tequila and going, me like you and stuff. I will say I've had that tequila. It's very, very good. So there's just some great humor in there. It's not any kind of big plot advancement thing, but you know what? It's a great monster of the week. The boys have fun. Sometimes you just need a break during the storm and drang so that you can continue on with it. And this was one of those great counterbalance episodes where it's like, it was a little light. It went down smooth. Just and I just really thought it was cute.
Well, I'm going to go with Of Grave Importance.
I knew you were going to do that one.
It's another monster week. It's a haunted house. And it turns out that there's a reason that these spirits are trapped there, because there was this guy who kind of imprisoned them there. And this is the episode in which we meet Annie, who is a hunter, who has been in a lot of foxholes with Bobby. Who, in his defense, he didn't have a soul. And Dean, so that's a lot of foxholes. So there was, of course, she is a spirit now. She's trapped in the house. And we get her interacting with Bobby, both of them as ghosts, trying to help Sam and Dean as they're going up against all these other ghosts, the main bad ghost, and trying to free the other ghosts. But just forgetting that little insight into how sometimes in hunting, it's a small world. Mm-hmm. I love that, but just, I'm a sucker for haunted houses. So I thought it held up well as a monster of the week, in addition to all that humor. All right, last round. So quick run around this time. So we also have time to tell everybody where to find us. But Melissa?
Okay. Time for a wedding with an asterisk. I hated the whole Becky drugged Sam. That was abhorrent. And that's enough said about that. But we get to meet Garth. And that's the awesome part of this episode. that was like the saving grace since we went through all the other good stuff from that season.
Okay, Danielle.
I'm gonna go with the series season premiere, Meet the New Boss, because partially I'm picking it because the end of season 6, kind of the finale of that, kind of felt like Castiel was set up to be the big bad for the whole season 7. And obviously, if you've seen Meet the New Boss, like he very much is doing bad things in that episode. But it's proven by the end of it that he's not really the problem. It's the Leviathans that are the problem. And I did think in the beginning they showed a lot of great promise. And I was interested to see what they were going to be and how they would stack up to the other things that we'd seen before. But just to circle back as quickly as possible to what Carole was saying about Sam and his tortured mind earlier in the episode she chose, like, I feel like this episode really set up, this is going to be a super heavy psychological season for Sam. And I love nothing more than psychological horror and the things that your mind is doing, even when you're fighting physical evil in front of you. So I just was really excited by this episode in general.
Cool. Anna.
Well, I'm really torn between Slice Girls, where we get shirtless Dean getting laid, and the mayor from season 3 of Buffy, and Defending Your Life. But I'm going to go with Defending Your Life because I really like the setup is totally ludicrous with Osiris and whatever and blah, blah, blah. But what I really like about it is the exploration of guilt and the difference between guilt and responsibility, and how we just delve deep into Dean's psyche and about how much he's always taken on, even when it's not his responsibility or it shouldn't be his responsibility. We get to see Joe Harvell again, and it ends with sort of the perfect opportunity for him to confess to Sam what he did to Amy Pond, but he blew it, and then that has its own consequences.
Okay, Elektra.
The Mentalists. Lilydale, New York, where there really are a whole bunch of mentalists. I thought that was a super awesome idea to go with. Sam and Dean both hear about how a bunch of psychics are being killed, and they meet up there and they finally get together. I will point out that there's an episode of This Is Your Life with Lisa Ling that actually focuses on the town of Lilydale. That's really awesome. And it's a fun episode, and a lot of the stuff is really from Lilydale, which is kind of cool. And it's a very silly episode. So, does not advance things a whole lot, but it's a fun monster of the week, so to speak.
Okay, Sumiko.
Definitely Slice Girls. I was like, I thought they were gonna take the one I wanted. So yeah. So Dean does have a really glorious shirtless hookup, and it's really sexy. But then he has his daughter, who's like an Amazon, and it is actually really kind of sad because she's like Dean in so many different ways that you just sort of want her to continue, because she's kind of awesome, but at the same time, she's not. She's got to die. So yeah, I thought it was great, and it did pack an emotional punch and sexy Dean scenes. So yeah.
Well, and we got the mirror that Supernatural loves so much, where, Sam was mad at Dean for killing Amy Pond, but then when Sam kills the Amazon daughter, Dean kind of gets it. And sometimes Dean's a slow learner, but yeah, I love that parallelism. Carole?
And of course, the great behind the scenes on that one is that Emma, the daughter, is actually also Missy Bender from the Benders, little girl way back when, which is really cool.
Isn't that all one from the gag reel where Jensen can't get his shirt off because he didn't unbuckle?
Yes, and he's like this, trying to get it off his wrists, and he's like, ah. And that's a great moment. One can watch that again and again. Not that I have. All right, so I'm actually going to end with a dark one, Repo Man. So in Repo Man, they're helping a woman they've helped in the past and blah, blah, blah. But the the germ of it is that there is a man who was possessed by a demon, and he is seeking to be repossessed again, repoed by the demon again, because he liked it. He liked it. And in the end, it turns out that the demon was afraid of the man, that the man was so heinous that the demon was afraid of him. And that's just such a great macabre little twist that, we're so used to thinking all along, he was trying to do good and he adopted the little dog and it was a sign of his new health, and he adopted the dog so he could kill it. It just like went, woo, into this dark place. And man, Supernatural can do that so well, that twist on a dime where all of a sudden you're in a place you just not only didn't see coming, just didn't even imagine could be there. So yeah, that's a really, dark and twisty little episode.
I was going to say, I almost picked that one because it reminded me a little bit of the Benders, because the person was the bad, and like that never gets to happen, but I love that because like humanity is awful. Like,
Right.
let's talk about that more.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also just have to say, in general, for season 7, I love Dick Roman as the big bad. I think he's terrific. He is so smooth, polished, sophisticated, and we don't usually see that. Usually the demons or the bad guys are like big and threatening or, ugly or monstrous or whatever. He is, smooth as cream, and yet he is so vile. And let me just say that for fan fiction purposes, he makes a great big bad because he can fulfill all these like sophisticated, cultured roles. And so kudos to James Patrick Stewart for all the terrific job he did in season 7.
And
Real
it gave us,
perfect dick.
yeah, it gave us an entire season of
Dick jokes.
Dick jokes.
Right
And
up
on
to-
that note,
right up to the point where, in the big fight, Dean bones Dick. So right through the neck. Anyhow, I'm gonna, as the last one, I am going to pick Out with the Old, because I have a real weakness for spooky antique shops. And this one is kind of a cross with, I think, the old TV show. It's either Warehouse 13 or Friday the 13th, not the slasher movie, where this guy inherits an antique shop and there's a bunch of stuff in the safe that has all sorts of funny markings on it. And he decides he's selling off his mom's stuff. And so he empties out the safe and sells it off. And guess what? That was a curse box, and all of those things are really bad. So bad things start happening. And so Sam and Dean have to kind of follow up and help clean up that mess. But, at the core of it, the demons have taken over several real estate agents, and they are buying up land for Dick Roman Enterprises, proving once again that the ultimate bad guy is always a corrupt real estate developer, just like we saw in Scooby Natural and almost every episode of Supernatural, of Scooby.
And almost every episode of The Apprentice. Oh, wait.
Slimy real estate agents, yes, for the money. But just the whole, I love antique shops. As a kid, my dad dragged me to a bunch of them. I used to walk around and make up stories about stuff that I didn't know what it was. And I can totally believe that some of those things might have been haunted because they were just creepy. So I think we've hit almost every episode.
Gail,
if not, we didn't leave out much.
Honorable mention to the turducken sandwich.
Yeah.
love the turducken. I only don't care. I don't care that I don't care.
Yeah.
I think my
That's
sandwich is mad at you.
I feel like I feel like I should have mentioned the little girl in Hello Cruel World and the whole Dr. Sexy exchange. That was great.
Yeah. There
Are
was
you
a lot of
Dr.
great
Sexy? Can you cut it anyone you want?
Well, folks, real quick, before we run out of time, let's go around and let everybody know where people can find you online. And if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, let us know.
You can find me online on Twitter, Tin Hat Daydreams. That is my barking dog, and my RPF, very short travel fiction, Mind the Profile.
Okay. Danielle.
I'm technically on Twitter and Instagram at Danielle TBD, but I don't really use it. I'm currently working on a series of children's books about my dog. So I'm going to encourage you to follow him on Instagram at The Real Mr. Archie. And it's MR, not Mr. spelled out.
Very good.
And he
Anna.
heard his name. So if he barks, I apologize.
You can find me at annakensing.com and most of the social media websites in some variation of that, except for Twitter, which I don't do at all. And yeah, I'm on and off on social media, depending on how much I'm procrastinating writing. But my website is also the place to find me.
Very good. Elektra.
My website is untilmidnight.com. You can find me on Mastodon at electra@wandering.shop and look for an upcoming story in ZNB Presents in February, and in Permutations, an anthology of Well World stories. I will have a story in there as well.
Very good. Sumiko.
You can find me at SumikoSaulson.com. On the socials, I'm either Sumiko Saulson or Sumiko SKA. You can pick up my book of dark poetry, The Rat King, at dookiezines.com. And you can pick up my most recent novel, Happiness and Other Diseases, at mochamemoirs.com. And the sequel to that is going to be coming out in the near future.
Cool. Carole.
As Carole M. Stokes, you can find me on Facebook, particularly in the TFWNC group and at Continual, and on many, 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 many Continual panels. On Twitter, I am true_firesign10. On Instagram, AO3 and Blue Sky, I am firesign10. As Ellis Colton, I'm now publishing MM Romance. My debut novella, Prescription for Love, is now out and available on Amazon.
Very good. And you didn't mention your fanfic is on AO3 as Firesign10.
Mind the tags.
And I'm easy to find at gailcmartin.com, morganbryce.com. All of the social medias are some variation of those names. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook. I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business. And my latest book as Morgan Bryce is Signs and Wonders in my Witchbane series. But most of the time, I'm here on Continual. So thank you all so much for being fantastic panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon. So we'll see you online.